Everyone, welcome to another brand new episode of the Outlier Podcast. I've got Mark with me today. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not to complain, sir. I'm good. I'm good. Perfect. So, quick introduction who Mark is. We are pressed on time today. So, we will do a quick podcast. Who Mark is? Mark is the Chief Retail Officer of Service Credit Union, one of the credit union veterans I've met, very passionate about retail specifically, the credit union movement and retail, right? So, Mark, again, thank you for taking your time out to join us today. We really appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Perfect. Quick introduction about Mark. Mark is one of the credit union execs who've seen both the worlds, the both the worlds as in the commercial banking and the credit union. So he can appreciate both the worlds and can balance the credit union movement and mission really, really well, right? So Mark, let's start this show with one question specifically. We want to know about your journey, right? So what led you move to credit unions, one, and second, to the world of retail, for the lack of better words?
Yeah, I can tell you, I had no desire when I was coming out of school. I didn't think this is what I was going to be doing at all.
No one does.
I originally went to school to be in radio. That's what I wanted to do. And the more I found out about it, I enjoyed the actual work, but the journey that you had to take, move to multiple cities, the kind of pay that they were going to offer, maybe switch to basically just a business management degree. And the first job I was actually able to get out of college was at a finance company. So I'm a little bit older than you. So the world was much different back then. And what the finance company was you lend, collect, hire, train, did payroll. It was kind of like being in business for yourself. It was I like to joke, say it was $1 million education for far less than $1 million of pay. But it taught you discipline, and you had to learn a lot of different areas of lending. So it was from small dollar lending, personal loans, all the way up to mortgages, and you had to collect on those too, which collecting is a skill.
Absolutely.
So I did that for a number of years, probably about 5 or 6, and I would be sitting in meetings, and people were 25 years, 30 years older than me, and I knew I didn't want to do that for a living forever. So I got into the mortgage banking space, started out as an outside sales rep, calling on mortgage bankers and brokers to actually fund their transactions. So that taught me a whole different kind of skill set, discipline, all of that. And I've always gravitated towards the production side of the business, but also have had operation experience. So I worked my way up through a couple different mortgage banking companies, but also in retail. I worked for JP Morgan Chase for a number of years and was responsible for about 180 of their branches on the West Coast. These were their smaller branches that needed help with fulfillment from a contact center perspective, but also needed help with just from a daily operations perspective. So that was very, very interesting. And I never even dreamed about what a credit union was or ever wanting to work at one. I had a friend who I worked with years ago that got into the credit union space. And he, for probably the better part of 2 or 3 years, would say, Mark, you got to check this out. It's really great here. And in my mind, I always thought a credit union was something small and sleepy and slow. And also, selfishly, I'm born and raised in the Midwest. I live in New Hampshire now with service, and I came here for the job. But the credit union I worked for, Alliant Credit Union, was based in city of Chicago, but also literally on O'Hare property. So imagine commuting to O'Hare every day.
Yeah.
And that was not something that was going to be appealing to me. So I kept putting him off. But then finally, he shared some numbers with me of what they were doing. And when I went to the organization, I met with them. It was the perfect blend between culture, mission, and results. And that's what I think people miss about credit unions. They have that picture in their head of being slower and behind the times. And we may not have as many resources in general as some banks. And when I say some banks, I'm only meaning the big banks. We're as good, if not better, than regional or community banks. Like for Service Credit Union, for example, we're a $6.5 billion organization in New Hampshire. We've got, 1,000 employees, and we've got members in every state. And the next largest financial institution in our own state is probably just less than 2 billion. So we're more than 3 times the size of any other. So we got a scale perspective and resources that some others don't have. Now, B of A, Chase are still going to dwarf us. with their branches that they have here. But we're definitely going after the same consumer, but we're going to go at it different ways.
Yeah, I mean, the credit union mission is very different. I think, there'll always be a consumer base of BF, but there will be always a consumer base for credit union. And what I love credit unions at your size, I mean, I usually work with credit unions at exactly your size, 5 to 8 billion. Too small, scared for resources, and not too big who has lost the credit union movement mission. So you guys are exactly in that sweet spot. So that's fantastic. Moving on to the next one, right? Talking about the digital first world. Now it's ridiculous when people talk about what is the need for branch. I'm like, guys, you do not have branch, you just shut your business, right? It's not digital or branch, it's always digital and branch. That's the way how we look at it, right? So my question is, in a digital first world, right, what does a truly retail driven member experience look like?
Well, I think you have to first start out with one, you've got to be committed to it from a resource and dollar perspective. It's expensive to build branches or lease branches. And it's, you can, I'm not sure you can be halfway in on either one. You got to be all in. And we believe that we're all in on both sides. We have 51 branches. So we have 15 literally in Germany on Air Force bases, because a third of our membership is the military, even though we're not a military specific credit union. And the other difference of branches are mostly in New Hampshire, with a few in Massachusetts and one in North Dakota on a military branch, or excuse me, military base. So to answer your question about what is a digital first or a branch member experience, I think from an omni-channel perspective, the member doesn't care. They're going to expect the same level of service, whether they're coming in and dealing with you face to face, over the phone, or your website. And I'd like to say that we've got it all figured out. We don't. It's an evolution. Our branch channels do really well. Our contact center has greatly improved and does really well. We've made some investments in the digital only area, but those have yet to fully bear fruit. We're growing that channel, but it's been really more traditional than in the past. But we've certainly laid the groundwork and invested in things like Salesforce. We're doing a new online banking upgrade. We're upgrading our telephony system literally this week. So where you've got digital authentication and those kinds of things. So there's just a lot that you have to invest in, and that's where I think scale comes into play. Where where you were saying that where you try to focus on the sweet spot is that $5 to $8 billion organization. I think us being a $6.5 billion organization lets us be able to test and place bets in certain areas from a technology partnership perspective, where we can get better at the digital first, kind of that Amazon like process that consumers demand now. It's like table stakes.
That's basic, isn't it? I mean, I expect my financial institution. I mean, I am addicted, lack of better words, to Spotify, to Netflix type of experience, right? I'm addicted to them. When I look at my financial institution, I don't want to be confused. My experience should be so personalized to me, and that's what I expect. I'm 32. I mean, that's what I expect. I mean, at 22, might expect even more. So that's the way how we are moving across, right? And what you're talking about, that makes sense. Now, talking about your leadership traits or the way how you build it, because running 51 branches, it's not less. You want a huge team. That's, I am myself a huge believer of EQ than IQ, because when I hire people, I I put my bets on people who are passionate about doing things, because people can always be trained. People can always learn multiple things. My question is, what are the top qualities that you look for while building a high performance team, specifically in retail? Because it's so difficult to run retail as a function. It's pretty difficult.
It is. And you know, what you just described is exactly what I think we are looking for, and I hope most organizations are. Is I was not born into the credit union world. No one is. You learn these things, right? And the right individuals, the cream will rise to the top. So I would say the number one trait, honest, well, maybe it's twofold. It's two sides of a coin. Number one, if you're in retail, you have to enjoy engaging with people in some way, shape, or form, whether it's on the phone, if you're in the contact center, it's in the branch, or even if it's digitally, you've got to be able to get that journey, that member journey figured out of what's going to be important to them and provide good data. And if you're in the branch, you've also got to be curious. So a healthy curiosity, I think, is ultimately very important from a retail perspective. Just being able to ask questions and interact with people. So that emotional intelligence that you're referring to, I think, is spot on. I don't think there's necessarily a degree that's going to set you up for amount of schooling. We've got people who
For
are
sure.
successful that basically just have high school degrees, and some have master's degrees who are successful in retail. So I don't think there's a cookie cutter individual answer or path, but I think the people really have to have a passion around wanting to help people and make a difference in people's lives and believe that.
I think that's very important. There's no specific answer to it. I get your question. I get you what you're talking about, right? Now, since you talked about that you've invested a lot, or you're investing on digital transformation, getting experiences more sleeker, more attractive to people like us, or for Gen Zs, because that's what you need to attract the next level of growth, right? Essentially, the generational wealth transfer to getting the next new set of consumers in. I mean, I'm a huge believer of referring members as consumers, because I still feel that you're going after the same consumer that Chase is going after, that Chime is going after. Member is sexy, but consumer is necessity. So, right, so that's what my philosophy is. Uh, my question is about innovation, right? So you already talked about that you're spending a lot on digital transformation. You want to talk about what are you doing exactly?
Yeah. Well, I did mention a couple things, which was Salesforce as well as our online banking provider change. But also within that online banking provider change, we believe the future is going to be all around payments. How easy someone is able to move money going forward, wherever they're taking it in from, and wherever they're pushing it out to, and they shouldn't have to worry about trying to figure out what payment rail makes the most sense. Like, all they need to be able to describe is, this is where I want it to go. What's the easiest way to do? And my financial institution be able to figure this out for me and push this through. So we firmly are placing a bet on later this year being able to roll out a much simpler and easier payments platform, and hopefully we'll be in the leading space, or to be thought of that way. That should help us with retention as well as acquisition going forward. You're still going to have to do the regular blocking and tackling, which is having really well priced deposit products,
Mm, mm.
certainly lower priced auto, credit card, lending products to be able to get people in the door. But we believe that the stickiness will be how they move their money.
I think that's table stakes. I mean, whenever people ask me about what do you expect from a financial institution, from your financial institution, I tell them one single thing. My financial institution, I mean, firstly, let's take a step back. Why do I need a financial institution? To move my money. Unless my money movement is smooth, fast, making sense, I won't name a financial institution that I bank with. I'm struggling with these guys for the last 3 weeks. There was a fraud that happened on my card, and they're still figuring it out, and I'm not able to transfer any money in and out. I'm like, guys, doesn't make sense. So what you talked about is absolutely to the point, from both being a credit union consultant to being an end consumer. I feel what you're talking about, right? In the interest of time, Mark, I know we are pressed of time, so I want to ask you one parting question. I'm a huge fan of, you know, asking questions like predictions, right? Because you've been in the ecosystem for years now. Again, we're talking the same thing. You've been in the large banks, regional banks. No, I mean, large commercial banks to Alliant. Alliant is more of a regional bank now, right? It's no more a credit union. It's as big as that. So then moving to a large credit union right now. So what is that one bold prediction that you have for the future of retail for credit unions?
Well, it's not going to be earth shattering. It's going to keep getting more and more competitive. The consumer is going to demand more and more. I think there's going to be less of us over time. the credit union industry keeps consolidating, as well as community banks. So the larger banks have also caught up. And it used to be a larger gap between what customer service would be at a credit union or community bank versus what it might be at a Chase or a B of A. I think that gap has shortened because they've made huge investments in technology, which makes ease of doing business, right? We still ultimately have better value from a proposition standpoint. And I also think we've just literally got better member to member or customer to customer interaction where large banks don't have it. But I would say, my prediction would be scale is going to count more than ever. And the bets you are making today, AI, all of those type of things. If you're not already doing it in some way, shape, or form, you're already way, way, way behind. And you've got to invest in that side of the business. And I think you have to maybe look at strategic partnerships for the long-term survivability of organizations.
Sounds good, Mark. That's a very well crafted answer. I won't keep you waiting more, but this was an amazing 17 minutes quick podcast. I really appreciate your time that you spent with us today. I'm looking forward to having you in more conversations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time today.